Hello everybody. In a previous video that I titled How to Solve Financial Hardships in Marriage, I mentioned to you in that video, for those of you who took time to watch it, that I'll be doing another part of trying to conclude that video. The content in that video was already quite conclusive in many ways. It had a lot of things to learn from and to also understand. But I said I would continue with another part of that, and that's what I want to do exactly in this particular video. I want you to understand that as I speak to you, my idea is not just to spend time to speak, but I speak to you with an intention of bringing a message or bringing a teaching to you that will transform and change your life. You see, you can never be able to change anything in life until you have understanding. Knowledge is power, they say. And the Bible says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge or lack of information. So every time you know truth and every time you know something that you are able to assimilate into your system, that which you know and is inside you is what you eventually become or eventually act on. And that is why I'm teaching on that. Therefore, I would highly recommend, in as much as that video sounds like it's all about the married people, the truth is everybody fits in that video. You can listen to it, and in one way or the other, I'm sure it's going to help you. I'm going to ask you to go back to that video, listen to it so that you can be able to combine it with this particular video that I am teaching this hour. I'm going to put the link towards the end of this video so that you will be able to directly just go to that video and be able to listen to it and connect with this particular video. Now, in that particular video, I ended up with a story, and I gave a story of this woman who had been begging for many years in a certain street, in a certain city, in a certain country. She had sat there begging, she had sat there borrowing money, and every day people would come and drop in the dollars, 1 penny, 1 quarter. That was the routine on a daily basis. And she was just seated there, hopeless, without any hope, knowing that her life was destined for poverty. There are some people who decided for themselves that they are going to be poor forever. And there are some people who gave up long time ago, and they knew that that is what they are designed for. But I want you to know that you are not designed, you are not wired, you are not born to remain poor forever. Yes, in case you are there and you're having hardships, in case you are there and you're struggling, I want you to remember Luke chapter number 1 verse 37, where the Bible says, for with God nothing is impossible. There is nothing impossible in as far as God is concerned. When we first understand that concept that God desires for us to prosper, then you will know that you are not meant to die poor. So this woman kept on sitting on that street anyway, and she kept on borrowing and borrowing until one time 2 gentlemen were passing by. They saw this woman seated there, and they decided to stop by and see whether they could give her something. But just before they gave her, one of them came up with an idea and said, no, this woman, if we just drop $1 here, or we drop a quarter, or drop a penny or a shilling here, that's it. She will just continue in the same routine of receiving the small change here and there. Why don't we do to this woman something that is going to change her completely? And the story goes, they left her seated there. She wondered, these people didn't do nothing. They just left. But then a few minutes or an hour later, they came back carrying a pack of water, the bottled water, and they placed it before her. And as soon as they placed it before her, without even giving her any instructions or telling her anything, they just simply placed it, tore the paper from the water, the pack of water, and removed 2 bottles of the water, and they left $5 for each bottle. And they went away and gave this woman $10. 5 plus 5 is $10. This woman was very surprised. These people had brought in water. Then they took 2 bottles and they left her. They bought the water from her, each for $5. As she was seated there mesmerized and wondering what is what, after a few minutes, another person passed by, saw the pack of water, and decided to pick a bottle and left her with $5. And then another one came after that, picked a bottle of water and left her with $5. And the people who were passing by kept on doing that. But this time it was different. Previously, they would drop $1, they would drop a penny, they would drop a shilling. But this time, because there was a product she was selling, they would give her money worth the product. At the end of the day, that woman had sold all the 40 bottles. She had more money than she had ever seen during her years of sitting in that particular corner or in that particular place. That made her so excited. The following morning, before she came back to the same spot, she had money. She went back to the same store where the water had been bought, but this time went and bought 2 packs of water. Came and sat in the same place. By the end of the day, all the water had been bought and gone. She had doubled the amount of money she had made the previous day. The third day, she went and bought 4 packs. And she came back with them. The same thing happened. Bottles were bought. Eventually, the woman started bringing other products in the same spot where she was begging from. She started now not only selling water, she was also selling other products. She was selling candy, she was selling sweets, she was selling some other few things here and there in the same spot. And every day she kept on increasing and increasing and increasing. The woman who was always seated there looking broken, looking tired, looking dirty, looking like as though there's no hope in life, something new had begun in her. She had been launched into a world of business. She had been launched in a world where now she could handle her own money. And the story goes, eventually this woman moved from there and she literally moved to a smaller store. And from the smaller store, she moved into a bigger store. And from there, she had a business that was booming and growing and bringing her hundreds of thousands of dollars. What am I trying to tell somebody here today? That it is possible for you to turn around your situation if only you understand that you are given a brain to use so that you can be able to change things. And that is the idea behind these videos that I teach you. As I talk to you every time I come and you hear my voice, what I'm basically trying to do is to tell you, hey, out there, it is possible to change situations. You're having hardships at home. Your marriage is in crisis because of money. It is possible to turn that around. You are having issues with your business because of shortage of money. It is possible to turn it around. You are not able to make ends meet. You are not able to pay the bills. You are walking in debts every other day. You are in a lot of financial crisis. It is possible to turn it around. And I'm excited so much as I speak to you because I know everybody who is able to receive this word, everybody who is able to practice that which I'm telling you, there is no way your life can remain the same. I have said it again and again in my videos. Listen to me for 6 months, and if your life has not changed, then you come back to me and throw stones at me. Come back to me and accuse me. Come back to me and call me whatever you're going to call me. But all I ask for is for you to consistently listen to me for at least 6 months and see whether things are not going to change for you. It is all possible. I have experienced it. I have seen it. Just like that woman who was seated there, a beggar, then suddenly she ends up becoming an extremely rich and wealthy woman simply because she understood something after some 2 gentlemen did something small for her. You know, the truth of the matter is she could have been brought that pack of water and decided she's going to stay like that. She could have been brought that pack of water and probably decided to discard it and throw it on the side and decide, no, I want to choose to live the way I have always lived. But she was wiser than that. The problem with many people is that they choose to live in a certain way. You must come to a place where you say enough is enough. And you must come to a place where you understand that everybody can access money. Everybody can access money without exception. Everybody, and I mean everybody. And I don't care where you are located. You may be here in America, some parts in America. You may be in South America. You may be in Europe. You may be in Asia, and even you can be in Africa. Sometimes I look at the people back home in Africa, they tend to feel like as though they are inferior. I want to let you know that people from my continent, you are not inferior. The money you see in America is also available in Africa. Money is available in equal measures everywhere. The only missing link is you. The only missing thing is you and your mind, you and your brain, you and your abilities, you and your talent, you and your capability of actually making it happen. Now remember what the Bible says in Deuteronomy 8:18. What does it tell me? It tells me that you shall remember the Lord your God. Why is that so? Because it is He who gives you the power to create wealth, to make wealth. In other words, God does not give you wealth. God gives you the power to make the wealth. So you get power and then you get wealth. Not wealth and then you get power. It doesn't work like that. So everybody has been given the same measure and the same ability of creating. But then he says you need to understand where you're beginning. You're beginning with He who made you, the Creator, God Himself. Understanding that He's the one who gives you the ability to do that. That is why you need to have that connection with Him. Spiritual connection is extremely important if you're going to succeed in this life. I know. You will tell me there are people who are not spiritual and they are succeeding. That's all right. But me, from where I sit and from where I come from, I do know that when you're working with God, it is much sweeter than when you're working without Him. It's much better. It's much sweeter. It's much more comfortable, and it is much more clearer. It is much more honest, and what have you. So what am I basically trying to tell you this hour? I want you to understand that you are a candidate of wealth and prosperity. And you can come out of anything called financial hardship if only you will have an understanding. Why is that so? Because God has already desired that for you. That is something that blesses me. Every morning I wake up, that is something that blesses me. And yes, in that particular video, I mentioned and I said I wanted to use somebody, a character in the Bible called Solomon or King Solomon. And I want to start from there. I know I've already gone on, but I want to kind of pick from there. And I want to pick from there right now, because if I connect that and you go back to that previous video, I assure you this message will mean a lot to you. This topic and this whatever I'm teaching will mean a lot to you. And therefore this hour, I'm going to talk to you about 3 things we find in the Bible that can totally change your financial status, that can deliver you from financial bondage and financial hardship. 3 things. And these are the 3 things that I have mentioned earlier that Solomon applied. And once he applied, his life was never the same again. He made history, and the history he made, even today, nobody has ever broken that history. Nobody has ever broken that record. Let me call it record. He made a record and nobody has broken that record. He became, and he was, and he still stays indeed the wealthiest and the wisest man that has ever lived. In 1 Kings chapter number 3, verse number 7, we are looking at a scenario where Solomon is going before God, and he is going before him and he's saying, listen, you have made your servant king instead of my father David, but I am a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. What actually Solomon is doing in this particular scripture is basically saying, listen, I don't think really I qualify for this position. And I feel it's the same thing with many people out there. There are people here who don't think they qualify to handle the kind of monies we are talking about. There are people here who don't think they qualify to handle the kind of positions that we may actually usher you into as you keep on listening to me talking to you, and as you keep on getting information. And by the way, I'm not the expert or the guru. There are so many other people who give teachings on some of these things. You need to get all those people, get that information, because I keep on insisting, the more you learn, the more you know, the more you become better and the stronger you become. Now Solomon is saying that, listen, I'm just but a child. I don't have much. I don't know how to go in. I don't know how to come in. I don't know how to handle nothing. So what he was actually crying for, if you look at verse number 8 all the way to verse number 13, they are having a conversation with God. And in that conversation, what Solomon is crying for is saying, listen, I need a way out, and I need the how to do this thing. If I am going to take the responsibility that I'm being given, I must know how to do it. And that is where the answer is to all our problems. The moment you know how to do it, you are good to go. You are everything. You once you know how to do it, there is nothing can become your limitation. Nothing can limit you. And as they are conversing with God, God tells him, listen, simply because you are seeking on how to do these things, I promise you, not only will I give you how to do it, but I'm also going to give you what you have not asked for. The truth of the matter is, every time you ask this question, how will I do it? Or how can I do it? How can I handle these things? Every time you ask that question, the answer will always come back accompanied with money, accompanied with wealth, accompanied with prosperity. And that's exactly how God answered his prayers. He said, listen to me, because you are asking on how to do it, I'm not only going to show you how to do it, but I'm also going to make sure that as you're doing it, it will be rewarded by gold and silver and all those things that you can think about. Because the moment you know how to do it, you know the reward behind how to do it is always paid with you getting finances, you getting wealth, you getting riches, you getting prosperity. That's how you get paid, because of knowing how to do it. And therefore, as they were discussing, Solomon became a very good example on becoming something great, from something nothing, from something small, from something that had no idea of what to do, from something that was looking at themselves and thinking they can do nothing, they're insignificant, from something that was looking like they don't know where they're going. The Bible declares that at the end of the day, Solomon became one of the greatest people who has ever lived. He came from shortcomings, he came from lack, he came from not understanding, and became a great name that even today we speak about. Why is that so? Because the moment he asked how to do it, God answered him that question. So how do we see, or what are the three things that we actually see Solomon doing? And these are the things that become a lesson for us, because I believe everybody who desires to be wealthy and everybody who wants to come out financial bondage or to come out of financial hardship, these three things are very important for you. If you can assimilate them, catch them, and walk with them, I'm telling you the truth, your life will not be the same. The first thing, and I'm going to break them a little bit more as I continue. The first thing we see is that he began with what he had and then built that which he did not have. In other words, Solomon started somewhere. That is where everybody ought to be. Now, God has a habit of doing that. There's another story we find in the book of Exodus. If you go to Exodus, at the beginning of Exodus, you find somewhere in chapter number 3 where a man by the name of Moses is having an encounter with God in a mountain called Mount Sinai. And God is in a mission in this particular chapter. He's in a mission of looking for somebody who is going to do the extraordinary, deliver the children of Israel from the bondage of the Egyptians. And he finds Moses, and then he comes to Moses and says, listen to me, Moses, I have a mission for you. And as they are conversing between him and God, Moses, and to and fro, Moses was looking just like the way Solomon was looking right now. He looked at himself, he says, no, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can make it, because when I look at myself, I have a lot of shortcomings. I have a lot of disadvantages. I have issues that cannot allow me to take that kind of a responsibility. If there's something I want you to learn today, is that everybody has ability to do something. Never ever disqualify yourself. I don't care what your school teacher told you. Some of you, because of your failing in school, you already decided you're a failure in life. Some of you, because your parent kept on calling you foolish, kept on telling you you're good for nothing, you concluded you are good for nothing. Some of you, because the society rejected you and the society has always looked at you and told you you cannot achieve anything in life, you have already decided you are a non-achiever. But I'm here to let you know, you have some friends back there. One of them is called Moses, another one is called Solomon, and the two of them became great men. Why is that so? Because a day came and their minds were shifted, their minds were turned around. My desire for you in these videos as you listen to me is that exactly what happened to Moses and exactly what happened to Solomon can actually happen to you. In this particular story of Moses, what we're seeing, as they are conversing, God asks Moses, what is it that you're holding in your hands? And the Bible records and says, Moses looks and says, the only thing I'm holding in my hands is a staff. There was only a piece of wood, a piece of road. And then God says, with that piece of road, that is what I'm going to use for you to break the neck of Pharaoh. This is the piece of wood I'm going to use for you to bring deliverance to the children of Israel, or to my children who are in bondage in Israel. It was a small little piece of wood, very insignificant. It was simply being used to take care of some sheep and some flock somewhere there in the wilderness. But at this very moment, God is asking, what is it that you have in your hands? What am I trying to emphasize to you right now? Everybody has something somewhere inside them. Some of you have voices that can make you millions. Some of you have ability to write. It can transform your life. Some of you can speak and become speakers. You can change your life. Some of you can do things with your hands. Some of you can do things with your legs. Some of you, I have seen some of my runners from Kenya. Some of them have become millionaires because they were doing the running. They run, and chingly, there is money that flocks for them. What am I basically trying to say? That everybody has been endured with something. Everybody has been loaded with something. It does not matter how insignificant it is, and it does not matter how small it is. In one of these other videos that I'm going to be doing very soon, it's not yet now, but I'm working on it, I'm going to be letting you know why you should start thinking of leaving your job. And I'll explain to you in another video, so don't take that for now. I will explain to you why it is important for you not to think that you are going to become wealthy using your job, your month-to-month pay salary. That is not taking you nowhere. That is simply helping you to pay your bills, but it's taking you nowhere. But then you need to come back to yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I'm holding? What is it that I have that I can be able to use? All the people you see that are called millionaires and billionaires, all the people that you see that are considered to be wealthy and prosperous, they did not get there because they had a job somewhere. They got there because they understood that which they were having in their hands. They stood and started from somewhere. Everybody must start from somewhere. Solomon began from somewhere. So that was the first thing, that Solomon began from somewhere, or Solomon began with what he was already having and then started building that which he did not have. The other thing, number two, is that he used the expertise of others to launch him out. He used the expertise of others to launch him out. I think that is one of the most amazing things you can ever think about. Most of us become what we are because we have incorporated ourselves, or we have partnered ourselves with somebody else. There are people around you who are experts in something. There are people around you who are experts in that which you are trying to achieve or trying to do. You must identify them if you are going to launch out and become something. The one thing Solomon did, if you go back to the book of 1 Kings and 2 Kings and talk about the issues of Solomon, you will discover that Solomon had a lot of relationships with different people and different kings. One particular king that Solomon partnered with a lot is called King Hiram. They did a lot of business together, and I believe they did a lot of stuff together. They talked a lot together. He looked at people who were experts in some particular fields. And one of the things I'm going to be showing you in a minute is that there are 6 fields in which Solomon engaged himself in. 6 fields, and in those particular fields he ensured he was working with people who understood what that field was all about. All you need is your brain. All you need is your brain. The third thing, he began different businesses and he had different streams of income. In other words, Solomon did not sit back and just rely on that paycheck, or rely on that pay slip, or rely on that one single salary he's getting from a certain company, organization, or whatever, and he was okay and life continued. No. He had different things he was doing in different places. The people who become wealthy, they don't maintain one thing. The people who are wealthy, they don't do only one thing. They have different streams of income. Some of it, we call it passive income, where you are doing this and you're doing the other. They are investing here and investing the other place. They are doing this here and they are doing the other thing in another place. That's what Solomon was all about. And in a minute, I want to mention to you some of the things which we find in the Bible that actually Solomon got engaged in. Because again, in this life, if you are going to make it financially, you have to identify which are some of these areas, which are some of these businesses, which are some of these things that I can do that can actually change my life. And listen to me, these things are applicable everywhere. Don't be deceived by anybody, but don't be told by somebody that, you are talking like this because you're in America, you're talking like this because you're in a country which is economically very good and economically doing well. Of course, when the economy of a country is good, it is a great advantage. But listen to me, the truth of the matter is, as long as you understand these principles and as long as you understand these concepts, you will succeed anywhere. So what are the first things that we see Solomon engaging himself in? I love this. The first thing we see Solomon doing, or among the first things he was doing, we find it in 2 Chronicles chapter 8 verse 1 and 2. What does the Bible say? It says, it came to pass at the end of 20 years when Solomon had built the house of the Lord. In other words, when Solomon had taken care of things that had to do with his spiritual issues or his spiritual matters, build the house of the Lord, and then on top of building the house of the Lord, spiritual matters, he also built a house for his family. So he took care of things in the house of God and took care of things in his own personal house. He settled his family, the children, the wives, and everybody. They were all settled. But after he had settled those two things, the Bible says, when Solomon had built the house of the Lord and his house, that the cities which Hiram had given to Solomon, Solomon built them and settled the children of Israel there. Now, one of the things I want you to understand about Solomon is that Solomon was a man who loved his people. He loved them very much. But listen, Solomon did scouting. He went around. After he had settled the house of the Lord, he had settled his own family, he started scouting around and he realized that the people he was ruling needed homes. But then he did not just realize they needed home in terms of helping them. No, he realized they needed home as a business opportunity. In other words, he knew that as he gets people homes, as he builds homes for them, they in turn will buy the homes. They will in turn will start paying rent for the home. And in the process of doing that, they will make money for him. He began with God, took care of his family, and from there he took houses that were depreciated from Hiram, rebuilt them, and then rented them out to the Israelites. What am I basically saying? When he talked to Hiram, he saw houses that were depreciated. When he talked to Hiram, he saw an opportunity that if he could rebuild this house, renovate this house, rehabilitate this house, then he could use them to either sell to the children of Israel or to rent them out. And that's exactly what Solomon did. He did that. He took advantage of the situation at that particular time. Now, I excuse my using the word taking advantage, but it's a reality. He actually did that. And Solomon was so much involved in as far as real estate is concerned. He was able to have an eye to understand that real estate is one of the most lucrative and most powerful business that has lived over the years. Since time immemorial, real estate has been the key thing. Now, I'm not saying other businesses are not key. There are many other businesses that are very key. But one business that is really key is when you're dealing with properties, land, when you're dealing with houses, selling, rehabilitating, rebuilding, building, renting, leasing, B&B, whatever you may think about it, as long as it falls into that ground called real estate, that is one thing that is powerful, and Solomon understood it as early as those years. And the Bible records he went around buying homes that were depreciated, renovating them and fixing them up. Today here in America we would call it flipping. Personally, I also got myself engaged in as far as that industry is concerned. Why? Because I saw there was a niche there. There was something I could get out of that. And for sure, I have seen it building me. I have seen it lifting me. I have seen it changing me and transforming my life. So much so that not only am I doing business here in America, I'm also doing business back in our country in Kenya. I have properties that I deal with in Kenya where I engage people in as far as if you want me to sell for you a property or you want me to help you out in a property, I do that kind of a thing. Why is that so? Because I realize if there is something that is so powerful, is a business called real estate business. And I'm here to help you. I'm here to advise you. I'm here to unlock your way of thinking so that you come out of that place where you're thinking, I cannot make it. You know, some of you are telling me right now, look at me, you are telling me this is, how will I get advantage of that? If you are here in America, I would tell you, if you want, start from somewhere. Get yourself into real estate one way or the other. If you're back in Africa, I'll also tell you, get yourself somewhere. Start thinking in terms of how can I acquire something? How can I acquire a plot? How can I acquire property? And once I acquire it, how can I sell it? Because the problem is we have, and this is a very bad habit people have sometimes. They take pieces of land and keep them for years and years and years and years and years and years. You stay with it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What are you doing with it? It is just seated there. That becomes a dead asset. What you need to do is stay with it for a few years, let it appreciate a bit, sell it, get another one, and do that, and get more pieces, get more land here and there. You have to keep on knowing the business that works, especially in real estate. It has to be moving. You don't stay in one place and expect to stay there, and that is the end of the story. You will grow old and die there, and nothing will have happened. You will not have helped yourself. And listen to me, some of you who have families who have issues with wrangles with the land, wrangles with properties, you better resolve your wrangles and resolve your property problems, because as long as that property is sitting there, all of you are suffering and it is not helping you. I don't even know why I've said that, but maybe there's somebody who is listening to me, they're having that kind of a problem. The other thing that we notice with him, I said he had a stream of different businesses. Look at him again in 1 Kings chapter number 9 and verse 26, and also in 2 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse number 21. Look at this. The Bible says King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber, which is near Elaz on the shore of Red Sea and in the land of Edom. In other words, King Solomon, together with having real estate, the next thing he did is that he engaged himself, or he involved himself in the transport industry. How did he do that? By having a fleet of sheep. He had a fleet of sheep for transporting his things. It's like what we will probably say today. Somebody is building and you have a fleet of trucks. You have a fleet of trucks for transporting materials. You have a fleet of trucks for doing things that you're doing. That's what he was doing. He had them. And not only that, he also got himself into issues of rentals. Rentals here and there. In 2 Chronicles chapter number 9 verse 26, it says, "For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Hiram. Once every 3 years the merchant ships came, bringing in gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys." So what was going on? He was having ships of his own, and at the same time he was also doing business in partnership with somebody called Hiram, and they would go to places, and using the ship he would bring in gold, he would bring in silver, he would bring in ivory, he would bring in apes, he would bring in monkeys, he would bring in things. He was the one who is the main supplier of merchandise in the day in that area. He was the one who was going all over picking, and people would rent the ship from him, and they would do the same thing. In 1 Kings chapter number 10 verse 11, it says, "Also the ships of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought great quantities of almug wood and precious stones from Ophir." 2 Corinthians 8:18 says, "And Hiram sent him ships by the hand of his servants, and servants who knew the sea. They went with the servants of Solomon to Ophir and acquired 450 talents of gold from there and brought it to King Solomon." What I'm basically saying is that he was so involved in merchandise, importing things, bringing in things. In fact, if you continue, you will notice that not only did Solomon do that in terms of owning his own ships to transport and bring things, from out and bring it in, and from in to outside. He was so involved in doing that, and he also rented them out and rented some from Hiram and what have you. They were in partnership in business. But the Bible goes on and says that not only did he do that, while he was importing things, he went around. In 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 28 to 29, it says, "Also Solomon had horses imported from Egypt and Kevev." Now you need to understand the horses were the mode of transportation at that time. He imported them. Now a chariot that was imported from Egypt cost 600 shekels of silver, and a horse 150, and thus through their agents they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria. He was so busy looking at this principle of supply and demand. Now look at this man. He has his own transportation, merchandising, everything here and there. Then he realizes, listen, one thing people need is transportation of their own. One thing a nation needs is horses and chariots. So he looks across the board and he realizes there are kings all over him, other nations around him, people who did not know how to access some of these things. And yet he also saw there is a country called Egypt that were masters in building those things, and a place called Kevev. They were masters of building those things. And what did Solomon do? He got into business deals with those kings, and he started buying the horses and buying the chariots. And once he bought them, he sold them out to the other kings. Look at that brilliance. He brought it in, sold it, and made a profit out of it. He kept on making money from any corner. Solomon was a business-minded man. And what we are learning from these stories of Solomon is that until you have a mind of business, until you're business-minded, I tell you the truth, you will never cross that line of financial bondage. You will never get to a place of what I call financial liberation or financial freedom. People who are liberated financially, they are minded like Solomon. They think like Solomon. They walk like Solomon. I chose and I decided in my heart, as much as I was a pastor and I was pastoring a congregation, I said I will continue pastoring with a church without walls. I will pastor people all over, but I will not time myself seated there waiting for the offertory bag to come my way. I decided I am adapting to these principles I learned from Solomon. I realized that my Bible again and again talks about wealth and prosperity and riches. I realized that God is interested in me becoming prosperous. But then I discovered my prosperity will not come because I sat in a room locked somewhere praying and saying, rain dollars from heaven. I realized it will only come when my mind is open up and I engage myself in the business world. And that's what exactly is going on with me. And I tell you the truth, I am bearing fruit. And believe me, YouTube family, listen to me. The truth is, you are more happier when you have money than when you don't have money. That's a fact. Whether you like it or not, when you have money, you are better off than somebody who is broke. All right? And that is why it's very important for you to grasp to what I'm telling you and to assimilate what I'm teaching you. Because when you capture it and hear it, it's going to help you very much. So Solomon was literally doing all kinds of things. He was supplying and he was selling and he was also receiving at the same time. He sold at the right time. He understood the concepts of sales, selling, and receiving. I mean, this man was just engaged in some of those things. He was a king, but he was brilliant in many ways. The fourth thing, and this is so interesting, is that he was a man of excellence and precision. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 4 to 5. This is what it says. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food on his table, the sitting of his servants, the service of his waiters, and their apparel, his cupbearers, and his entryway by which he went up to the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. There was no more spirit. When she beheld the excellency in the kingdom of Solomon, when she saw the way things were done in an organized manner, in a beautiful manner, in an excellent manner, the Bible says there was no spirit in her. In other words, she was in shock. How many of you listening to me, when people look at your lifestyle, they look at the way you deal with yourself on a daily basis, they can look at you and they will be left without a spirit. And they'll say, wow, look at her. The way she carries herself, the way she dresses, the way she handles her affairs, the way she's so organized. Wow. That's exactly what was happening with the Queen of Sheba. And why are we learning from this? Is that Solomon was a man of excellence. Excellence was his lifestyle. And because of being so excellent, he stood out from among the kings. Whenever you'd be looking at which king should you admire, which king should you follow to be like, which king is at the top of the charts in those days, and the only person who kept on coming to the top was Solomon. Why? Because excellence was his lifestyle. He was so excellent that he was above anything called competition. He was so excellent that his reputation and fame grew higher and higher and higher. He was so excellent that his public demand grew more and more and more. You see, the more you understand the concept of excellence in as far as building wealth is concerned, where you're doing your things properly, where you are organized in everything you're doing, where you're planning things well, where everything of yours looks glamorous and looks beautiful, the truth of the matter is you will be on demand wherever you are. People who have excellency as their lifestyle, they are always exceptional. People who have excellence in their life, they are always remarkable and they are always very, very noticeable. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I have had a few people telling me, wow, you are so excellent. You are so neat. My goodness, how do you live like that? Everything of yours, you want everything organized. But do you know what? It's because I discovered the secret from Solomon. I realized, listen, if I want to make my life better, if I want to be attractive, if I want to be a man or a person who is on demand, then everything in my life must reflect that. If you come to my house, everything is clean and neat. If you come to my dressing, I want to stay neat. And by the way, listen to me. Being excellent does not mean being expensive. No. Being excellent means doing things properly and being nice. I don't even know how I explain that, but that's what excellence is all about. One of these days, I think we are going to deal with that as a topic by itself. What it means actually to be excellent. But actually, Solomon, everything he did it very well. You walked into his office, it was perfect. You walked into his house, it was perfect. You walked into anything he was involved in, it was nice, it was good. And not only to him, but even the people who served him, the people who worked for him, they portrayed the same image. They were not an embarrassment to his organization. They were not an embarrassment to his enterprise. Why? Because he had taught them how to be excellent in everything they do. Please, one of the cheapest things you can do, or one of the smallest things you can do for yourself, is try to start organizing yourself right from the moment you walk out from your own bed. When you walk out from your bed, excellence starts there. How do you leave your bed as you walk out of the house? If you leave your bed in a mess, you need to check something. I know. Some of you are looking at me and thinking, no, you cannot tell me that. I don't even remember the last time I made my bed. But the truth is, some of you are so messy that you don't want to be near you at all. You leave your bed in a mess. You leave everything scattered all over. If you go to the kitchen, you are leaving the utensils everywhere. It is all a mess. The house sometimes is even stinking. If you have a dog, the dog is pooping everywhere. The dog is having fire everywhere. If you have a cat, it is all messing everything and all that. The life in that house is just a mess. Those people who are messy right from home, they are also messy in everything in as far as life is concerned. You have to understand that excellency must become your lifestyle if you're going to ever handle anything called wealthy. Look at any man who is considered a millionaire. Look at any man who is considered wealthy in this world, or a woman for that matter. One of the things you will find they have in common is something called excellence. It's something called a lifestyle of excellence, because once you learn to do it from your position, you are down right now, but start it there. Let everything of yours be proper. Let it be neat. Start from your own home. Let everything be neat. Go to your working place. Go to your business premises. If you have a business, let me not come to your business premises, and when I walk into that building, I cannot know what is where. You know, some of you people, you do some of those businesses, but when I walk in, everything is everywhere. You are doing the business of printing, and when I come in, everything, papers here, paint here, the machine is or having books on it. There are things all over. I went somewhere one time and I was like, whoa, this is too much. It overwhelms my eyes because everything is so messy. The owners know where everything is. But listen to me, when I see something like that and I'm a customer or I'm a client, I will not come back because I see a lot of mess. Mess is not good for people who want to be wealthy. Oh my goodness. Let me shake a little bit as I say that. Mess is not good. When you're messy, you are saying bye-bye to wealth. When you're messy, you're saying bye-bye to having or handling riches, because these two things don't work together. Solomon was a man who had a lifestyle of excellency, and I ask you to make it your purpose, make it your prerogative, make it your thing that you are going to improve everything you're doing. Clean up yourself, clean up everything around you, put things in order. If it's your work and at work, in terms of book work, in terms of everything, let everything be in an excellent format. And I tell you the truth, you will start seeing things happening in as far as your life is concerned. Then the fifth thing, I said there are 6 things. The fifth thing is that Solomon became a consultant and a giver of knowledge. 1 Kings chapter number 10 verse 1 to 3 says, Now when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels that bore spices, very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she spoke with him all that was in her heart. So Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing so difficult for the king that he could not explain to her. Let me read one more verse, verse 23 to verse 25. It says, So King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. I like that. I don't know how many of us we can say you surpassed everybody in riches and wisdom. Now all the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Each man brought his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, and mules, at a set rate year by year. I don't want you to miss those words, at a set rate year by year. In other words, Solomon was the chief consultant to these other leaders. And every time they consulted with him, they brought in money, they brought in gifts. In those days, they were bringing items. If we could quantify this in terms of money, we are looking at hundreds of millions of dollars. You could not spend 30 minutes with Solomon or 1 hour with Solomon and you don't pay money, and I'm talking about big money. Bring in gold, bring in spices, bring in all these garments, bring in armor, bring spices, bring horses, bring all those things, just to have a moment with him. When the queen of Sheba came to him, she had carried all this. Today I had somebody saying that when the queen of Sheba came to Solomon, the kind of gold she was carrying, when you quantify it in our money today, they say it's equivalent to about $230 million. Now, that was just for consultation. You see why this man became so rich? It's because you could not sit before him and you don't pay. And in actual fact, it is so funny because some of the kings, they say at a set rate year by year. Some of them had already gone into a subscription kind of a method of dealing with this man. They knew, I have subscribed to the wisdom of Solomon, and because I have subscribed to it, every year I have to bring a certain amount of money or a certain amount of gifts to him so that I can continue eating from the information that he releases. Everyone that was consulting with him, they were paying revenue. Every knowledge that he was receiving from him, they were paying for it. So what am I trying to say? That you who is living today, including myself, as I sit down to give information, I should know that I have every right to eat and be paid for that information. Very soon I'm going to be starting my own master classes. I'm going to start my own classes, but believe me, those classes are going to be free. I mean, it's good for me to tell you in advance. They are going to be free. Right now, you're enjoying these YouTube videos because I am releasing the information free of charge to you. But when we go to a class and do some consultations on the side, because I'm giving you things in an orderly manner, and probably I'm also giving you some materials, you will be paying for it. And let's agree, if you are planning to be very wealthy, and if you're planning to reach some numbers in as far as money is concerned, you could know also the value of the thing you're looking for will also be very, very costly. What am I trying to tell you right now? Whatever I'm releasing to you is of great value. Solomon was putting information together. Information is value. And when you release it, you should be paid. He was releasing information to people. And why was he releasing information to people? He knew that information was valuable. And because information is valuable, he knew the people must pay for it. He gave knowledge in terms of speaking to people. He gave knowledge in terms of writing down. He wrote more than 3,000 proverbs. He wrote more than 1,000 songs. We find them in the Bible. He was busy in the writing business, releasing books. I am releasing books. I thank God I have adapted to this kind of a thing. I'm releasing my own books. And out of the information that I release and out of the teachings that I give, that information and that knowledge needs to be paid. It needs to be paid. Never feel embarrassed when you're paying for information. Never feel embarrassed when you're paying for information. Never feel embarrassed, because the more you pay and the more you receive, the higher you go and the better you become. I invest myself so many times. I get this information here. I pray for this seminar. I pay for this book. I buy books here and there. I buy these teachings here and there. I attend trainings here and there. And every one of them, I'm putting in money. I'm putting in money. I'm putting in money. Why is that so? Because I know the better I become, the more, even as I release, I will get paid. And therefore, even as I'm speaking to you right now, I want you to know that knowledge needs to be paid for. Knowledge is expensive. And that is something you can also do for yourself. In whatever area you are in, whatever area of expertise you have, you can monetize it. You can make money out of it. You see, there are many avenues of making money. Solomon is taking us through this thing of how to make money. But then finally, number 6, and this is very important, the last point, because I think this is a showstopper of everything. Number 6 in 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 13, the Bible says, "Now King Solomon gave the queen of Sheba all she desired, whatever she asked, besides what Solomon had given her according to the royal generosity. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants." I want you to understand that not only did Solomon receive, not only did Solomon get paid, but he also knew a powerful principle here. He knew the principle of being generous and the principle of giving. All right. Now, I am not a prompt preacher of telling people give so that God can do. No, I don't believe in that at all. I believe we bless because we have been blessed. I believe we give because God has given us that which we need to give. He says in his word that he gives seed to the sower. And he gives it so that that seed can be bread, can be seed to sow. And he also gives it so that it can be bread to be eaten. He gives it so that you can use it for production, and once you produce, you can actually, there can also be consumption. So what am I saying? I believe very strongly God gives us ideas so that when we get loaded, whatever we get in our hands, there is a blessing when you release it. There is a blessing. A blessing. How does the blessing come back to you? God gives you more ideas. How does the blessing comes to you? God gives you more connections. God gives you more people. Because you see, when you give, Jesus says in like Luke 6:38, it says, "It shall come back to you a measure that is pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing." And then it goes on and says, "So shall men give to your bosom." In other words, as you are releasing things to people, as you are becoming generals, that's the same way you are allowing people to come to you and also released to you. Solomon was giving and giving. The Bible says even after Sheba, Queen of Sheba, had brought whatever she brought, when she was leaving, she left their throne loaded with not only information, but she was also loaded with things. And she had been given what was being given from the royal family. They called it royal generosity. They had set aside something that any visitor who comes in must be given a certain package to go out with. Giving is a powerful principle. I have been involved in a lot of giving here and there. I give people, I give family, I educate children. I have sponsored a lot of children back in Africa in terms of education and in terms of dressing them and what have you. I like getting engaged in some of those things because I understand that as I'm doing that, I'm also opening avenues for me to have people blessing me and people bringing to me. What am I basically saying to you today? That Solomon is a good example. He came from nothing, but he understood 3 things: that if you start from somewhere, you can build into something. You may not have anything right now, but you can become something. He also understood that you can use people to launch out. You can use people around you who have expertise to help you move to something else. He also understood, and this is extremely important, he also understood something very interesting, that businesses should not be only one. You can actually have a stream of different businesses and do different things, have different places of income, streams of income, because when you have all that, your life cannot be the same. I have said so much, and I don't want to overdo this. I don't want to stretch this this video, but I know I've said, and I hope you have been able to come all the way to the end with me right now. Please, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I ask you to go ahead and do that so that I can continue sending you more content and blessing you as I speak to you. Now, remember, my main mission in these teachings is to help you move from where you are and become a man or a woman who has substance, somebody who is going somewhere. You are highly favored and highly blessed. Don't forget that. Now let's build a YouTube family by subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and I know when you do that, I will definitely be seeing you in the next video. God bless you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the time wherever you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.